Hi guys, my name is Danielle Baker and this week's episode is going to be talking about sexual assault. So please make sure that if this is a trigger for any of you, that you do consider it as you are listening to this episode. Now, I don't go into anything too in depth, but I do talk about how it's impacted my life and why I think that I chose the men that I have chosen, and also, you know, it is quite private. People don't talk about this for a reason of that becomes gossip. It becomes people are trying to get attention. I'm actually just trying to bring awareness around this, and the awareness that I have around it and my thoughts of it now as I have healed from it. Now, this is my journey and my journey alone, so please respect that. This is a really cool episode. I speak about how it's impacted me and on more or less a spiritual level, and like the reasons why I've chosen certain men in my life when I have such healthy role models around me, to meeting my husband. So this is a really cool episode. I hope you really enjoy. Like I said, if this is happening to you or this has happened to you, please do speak to somebody about it. It is very important to bring more awareness around it. I have a daughter and I would like to bring more awareness around it for her as well, so that we can also start to bring more of a positive outlook to it, to such a heavy negative thing that happens to a lot of women around the world. So I'm giving you big loves and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Raw Light Podcast. My name is Danielle Baker and thank you for being here today. Guys, today I decided to pull some cards, which I don't normally do and haven't done in a really long time. Now, I love card readings, if that's what you're looking for. If you're directly looking for card readings, then that's great. But I don't actually do card readings for people because I feel like it's basically you're using your intuition anyway, but you're just reading what cards have come out for signals, but you can tune into that without cards as well. So I like to tune in without cards. But today I thought it'd be fun to pull some cards for everybody. So the first card I pulled was Pilgrim Shift, and I feel like this aligns with everything that's going on at the moment. We are now shifting into a massive new energy, and there is a lot of people on social media talking about this. We are shifting deeply. And the second card I pulled was Initiation by Water, which is really funny because it's basically saying that you are going to get initiated within your own emotions through this pilgrim shift. It is a huge emotional development and emotional energy happening at the moment for a lot of people. And it's basically when you go through a shift, you're basically going into old DNA patterns, old life patterns, or things start to come up. I noticed today that I was sitting and I was kind of like reliving my teenagehood, and certain negative patterns were coming up from when I was a teenager, and I'm like, wow, interesting that this is coming up. And I'm also feeling a lot of deep emotions that are coming up right now, full of gratefulness and those types of things as well. But Initiation by Water, you are being initiated by your own self. So I would say that when you go through an initiation, you have to cry to get out all your old dead cells and allow them to be rejuvenated, just like a flower. So basically a flower that's like looking dead, and hasn't been watered in a while, you have to cry for your body to go through a bit of an initiation to rebirth itself. And the last one that I pulled out was Cosmic Heart, Cosmic Christ. So basically your heart, and I actually feel like this is true because for myself, my heart has been getting a massive upgrade in probably the last year, but in the last 6 months, it's been huge to the point where like my heart, front and back is in pain. So you have a front heart and a back heart, and they're both magical portals, and there is massive upgrades within the heart sector for people because people are going to start working from their heart instead of working from their head, which is really important. Working from your body and your heart basically helps you connect deeply to the beautiful power that we have through the universe, because you are one with the universe. And there's something I want to talk about, and it's about spirituality and how you know if a person is here to be more spiritually advanced. And most of the time they are here to be spiritually advanced because their soul can connect to the light, they can connect to angels, ghosts, anything that isn't physically there that they can connect to. If they can connect really easy, it means that they've brought a lot more of their soul back. Whether some people, for example, they don't need to bring as much back because they're here for more of a physical form, so they can open up, but it doesn't have to be as much, and they can still have their physical form here and still be open. But people who are really here to do the work and really here to do the spiritual guiding and healing and talking and speaking and shifting. By the way, I'll finish this first. They are here, basically anyone. So like myself, I came back with a lot more of my soul than a lot of people would know, and a lot of, like, someone like my mentor probably came back with like 90%, and 10% is his physical form because of the hard work that he does with the other side. And this goes for a lot of healers and a lot of people, because we have to access the other world, the other side, right? So massive there. Now, we need to understand that spirituality can also be in a form of just conscious talking. So people who are here to inform you about how you can live your purpose with business, or whether it's with some sort of relationship, or people are literally put here for certain reasons. You just have to find who and what you need and why. So for example, Jay Shetty is a massive example of who I really love. He is phenomenal, and he is basically here to kind of show you the sides of celebrities that we probably don't see, the sides that people just kind of see on social media and the news, because we don't know them in person. So then it's easy to build a judgment on somebody when you don't know them in person. So just be very aware of that as well. It is really important to know that what you see, I've talked about this online, isn't always real. And things can go on deeply in their household. For example, I don't really have space for much else at the moment. I have space for my beautiful daughter, my husband, and we are working towards some things for our future. And there is a lot of shift probably over the next 12 months for us in general, physical, spiritual, all sorts. As soon as I met my husband, we started to go through basically a dark soul of the night together. And both in our charts, it was super interesting. We both cross over in certain areas. He's going through his, I'm going through mine. Mine finishes when I hit 31, so the end of this year. 30. So when I hit this year, and it will go on until basically next year will be a lot lighter for me, but it will still be in the depths. Now, if you're wondering what chart I'm looking off, I am looking off my astrology chart, but then it also crossed into... there was one other one that it crossed into as well. I can't remember what it was, but it was something else other than astrology. So I don't have much space for anything else, but yet I show up on social media because I'm feeling more called to be on the platform and to share and experience my knowledge and with the world. So this podcast is going to get a lot more spiro, because it is who I am. It is who I am as a mother as well, and how I run things in my life. Now, I don't get much time these days. I am just starting to get back into trying to meditate. I used to meditate 30 minutes to 15 to 30 minutes a day, and at the moment I have not been able to have the access to that, mainly because I've been lazy, if I'm completely honest. But when I have to work with people, I make sure I set aside an hour or so beforehand to really connect in, and then I kind of go into it. And I'm also opening up for anybody who's interested nighttime healings. They also come with a reading, so it's about an hour. I'm basically releasing it for about $70. So $70, you get me for an hour, lots of questions answered. If you're wanting a past life reading, we can do stuff like that as well. Let me be clear about past life stuff though, and it's something that I've learned along my journey. I know a lot about my past, and it doesn't help me in this life. It makes me realise who I was in a past life, and that gives me a feeling of power, but it actually doesn't really give me insight to right now and what I'm writing for myself. It can help you understand why you have certain patterns and DNA patterns and possibly certain lives with your family. If you don't know, you come back mainly with 4 or 5 family members each life, and you guys swap positions. So this life, my last life, my dad might have been my husband, or, those types of things. So that is something that I very much believe in. So I want to take you guys down on a little journey today with my spiritual life and my spiritual experience. And I'm going to share my husband's and my story with you. And I feel like this is really important for me to have a chat with you about this, because just give me 1 second. My battery is about to die. Sorry guys, my laptop was about to die, and also what was really funny is Oakley seemed to have wanted to wake up at the same time, so I just went and gave her dummy, and we will see how we go. I might have to stop this podcast again. Reality of being a mum, guys. But for my whole life, I felt like that I was born to have the greatest love that I could, and I could not explain that to you if I tried, because it is a deep feeling that I had inside me, and I felt like that I was here for this deepest love that you could find. One, with myself, because it's super important to find that love with yourself, and that is a whole journey in itself. So I'm going to take you for a bit of a whole journey situation with me as well. So my self-love was really, 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 really hard. As in, like, it has taken me a really long time to learn what self-love was, and only 2 months before I met my husband did I really tap into that. And that it probably explains why I met him when I did, because it was always written for me. Now guys, let me say this one thing. It is 100% written for you. You have something that's paved out for you. Whether you choose it or not is up to you. If you choose the easy road, totally fine. If you choose the harder road, so say you're supposed to go right and you go left, you will try to be veered back onto that straight and narrow. Whether or not it works, it's up to you. That means, like, some people stay with partners they know that they shouldn't. They stay in jobs they know they shouldn't. They have a lot of fear, those types of things. It's very common in this world. So for me, I grew up knowing that I deserved this great love, and I kept searching for it though. The problem with searching for it is you're always going to get people in front of you who probably don't respect you, because you're trying to pull from an area that is not aligned already for you. And also, if you're pulling from that area and in within yourself and you're like, yep, I'm ready for this love, I know that I am, that's a real ego way of thinking about it. That's your mind saying you deserve better, blah blah blah. It's not really getting you to look at yourself and possibly where you need to grow as well. So in my life, I basically have had a lot of relationships. Now, I'm going to go down a bit of a road that I feel people are probably going to... It's going to be a little bit triggering before I go into it, okay? So I'm going to just give you a trigger warning right now that we talk about sexual assault and sexual abuse very quickly. That's just kind of what we're going to go through. Now, I'm not going into details. I'm just going to explain it as it is and we're going to move on. So, I was sexually assaulted in my life. Now, I'm not going to go into the details and things because I really don't think that matters. All I'm going to say is I have been sexually assaulted in my life, and it really kind of changed my DNA and my platform moving forward. I basically started to choose men from a place of wanting, feeling like I needed to be wanted when it came to sex and those types of things. So, yeah, I feel like because that happened to me, this is just my journey and my knowledge of things that I know because I have worked with spirituality my whole life. So let me be very clear. If you have been through this and you are seeking or have been hiding it for a while, it is really important to speak about it, whether it's with friends, psychologist, those types of things. It is very, 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 very high important that you speak to somebody about it, okay? I'm just explaining my journey. So going on, because my energy got tainted, it also gave me a reawakening of myself to the point where I was supposed to find my own love in this life. And I know you're going to go, well, how the fuck did you manage that? And why are you being so casual about this? Because, let's be honest, in this world, everything has a lot of fear around it. And I don't want this to have fear around it for me because I have healed from it. I have spoken about it. And I am now trying to speak up and speak awareness about it as well. But with my journey, it took me down a road of me always wanting to know why I would attract these douchebag guys who basically, I just felt worthless. Felt like a piece of crap, really. I got into a emotionally abusive relationship really young at 16. Well, no, it was 16, 15, 14, 15, 15, 16. And we were both quite emotionally abusive towards each other, but there were some red flags. Now I was sitting there today thinking, wow, this was a big fucking red flag when basically we'd been out one night and we were all at a friend's house and someone had started a rumour that I'd slept with somebody from that house, which was not true at all. I was like still obsessed with this guy that we'd split up with. Basically, somebody had created a story in his head and he basically told me that is what I would be doing and how dare I and all this stuff. So it was really unhealthy. It was really, really unhealthy. And these days, if you were even in that relationship, it's like, it's a red flag. But back then, honestly, I'm nearly 30 and I'm like, back then, it was just like you kind of heal from it, move on it and do your thing. So, or you don't even talk about it, really, to be honest. I don't think I've ever told anybody about that. And then, moving on, I always felt like, after that, I was just like beating myself up constantly. I didn't have the best self-esteem. My self-esteem was so shit, guys. And even though I was working on myself spiritually, because I met my mentor when I was really young. I met him probably a year before when I was, so it was probably a year before that when I was 15. First started dating this guy, sort of thing. And basically, it just set me up for a more of a solid life. And the reason why I say solid life is because there was a lot of pain in my life before then, just because I felt I could feel my past lives as well. And I lived in such a deep spiritual world in my own head. I didn't like my childhood, and I've had this conversation with my parents. And it's not because my parents did anything wrong. It's just because I was so open spiritually and I didn't feel understood. I grew up with 4 boys around me, by the way, and I lived, as a boy. There was no feminine, which makes sense now as well. So, I'm deeply feminine and I work for the deep feminine. But when I was born, I was basically masculine because I had to protect myself until I could actually reopen up my feminine again. So on with the story, I ended up meeting my partner at the age, not my partner now, but somebody I was with for about 5 years when I was 17 or 18. And then I moved overseas with him. Now, in my journey with him, he felt safe and secure. He could look after me. I'd been through so much crap that I legit was like, you know, he's going to protect me, he's going to save me, he's going to keep me safe. But still I wasn't getting met with my own emotional needs from myself, by the way, and then from him, because I didn't know at this age, like you do all this evolving as you go. And I did all this massive evolving with him, and I grew so much to the point where we grew apart. And I ended up ending the relationship. Now, when I was with him, I was like, I deserve more because I'm putting everything into this relationship and he could not give it back to me. And that is fine, because now I'm realizing he was on his own journey and we were both in a karmic relationship. So basically I was his bad karma and he was my good karma. So being in a karmic relationship isn't a bad thing, guys, but karmic relationships are lessons. Soulmates are teachers, but they're growth teachers. So you stay together and you grow and evolve, and they are your ultimate destination. Now, we have several soulmates in a lifetime. Don't be confused that you think you just have one. So now I genuinely loved him, but I wasn't in love with him, and my sexual needs weren't getting met. I wasn't even open to my sexual needs myself, but I still kept this internal deep feeling of feeling like I needed to learn how to love myself again. So I basically split up with him, but this is where the story gets interesting. I was laying on the floor in my apartment at the time, and I just split up with him, and I said to God, please help me. And that was basically my awakening, by the way. I was like, please, I'm going to devote my time and my energy to myself. I'm going to evolve myself, and I'm not going to feel like this again. I don't want to be feeling like this again. So basically, I did not want to be in a relationship at all until I met my person. Still had people along the way, because if you don't have these people, how do you know what you do want and what you don't want? And this is where it's really important to remember growth. Now, growth as a person. So I signed up in my 20s, basically my whole life, but in my 20s for a fuck ton of growth. And I had a lot of karma to work through. So that's why I work with my mentor. So I basically work through my karma so then I can move on to my dharma. Now, your karma is basically what you've done in past lives. So you are working through, so basically some people might show up in your life. They might tell you that you can't do something or try and take your power away or those types of things. And that is what karma actually is. So if you're being horrible to a person this lifetime, just think about the karma you're creating for yourself. And it also means the path that you used to walk in another life, and you basically caused a lot of karma because of certain reasons. Say my friend got murdered and then I decided to murder all their friends or something like that, like lifetimes of different things. So this lifetime I chose to come back and clear all my karma again and move on to my dharma. Now, your dharma is your good karma, your footprint that you're here to leave. It's like basically you are rewriting yourself right here and right now. So I have worked so hard to get where I am right now. I cannot explain it. Now, my husband actually signed up for this with me before we came down to earth. We 100% know this. We both signed up together for this lifetime for us to come back together to both clear our karma and then walk into our dharma together. This is our last lifetime together, and it really makes me really sad saying that, because I am so infinitely in love with this man, but he also drives me up the absolute wall as well. So after this, I actually still got myself into a bit of emotionally abusive relationships, and it's a pattern that I've realized that I've gone into before, where I just jumped into things because I knew what I wanted, and my ego basically told me that this is where I was going and this is what I was doing. And let me tell you, I had no fucking clue what I was getting up to, until I realized the pattern that I was creating for myself. And I'm like, why are you creating such a bad habit for yourself, Danielle? Why do you feel like you need to keep going into these emotionally abusive relationships? It's because I still didn't feel good enough within myself. I couldn't be alone, guys. Could not for the life of me fucking be alone. And I knew that if I wasn't careful and I didn't work out how to fix this, I just kept going in circles and circles and circles and being so ungrounded. And, you know, I started to, when I split up with my ex-partner, I looked at myself in the mirror every day and I said, I love myself. I am beautiful. I deserve to be loved. I love my body, because those types of things I never ever had. I never liked my body. I always felt like I was big, and having brothers, I definitely, you know, there were certain comments I know they didn't think about, that still kind of comes up to me these days, about making sure that my body is in a good, healthy, they cared for my health, let's put it that way. So they just wanted to make sure that I was being healthy. And I was very lazy when I was younger, mainly because my energy was just so stuck and stagnant, and I felt like shit and didn't want to be here. Basically my past lives, I outed myself. So I basically wanted to die every time because I wanted to cheat the system, and I was pretty pissed off about, I think it was in the 30s, people murdered me for speaking up about the things that I'm speaking up about now. So basically, I'm absolutely loving doing this podcast today, guys. This is probably one of my favorite podcasts of all time. So basically, I didn't love myself. I never had loved myself. I was always afraid of my body. I beat my body real bad, as in like I would work out because I wanted this slim body. I would basically malnourish my body. So I would deplete it by just eating vegetables, which is totally fine. I'm not against it, but my body thrives off having meat in it because of the energy work that I do. I need the energy. And I have tried being vegetarian and it didn't work. Having meat also helps ground me as a person. So we're moving on to how I managed to keep going. And every stage that I've had, so I lived in Perth, worked at a hairdressing salon, didn't like myself, was becoming this pretentious bitch basically, was still doing yoga. And also, you're probably thinking, how did you manage to do that even though you had your mentor helping you? The truth is, he can only help me so much. I have my own mind, my own body, my own thinking. He would definitely tell me and has pulled me up quite a few times when I have gone into my ego and literally allowing my ego to take over. We've worked so hard on the mind so that the body can lead the way and the mind can drop away. And guys, this is why I do my work. I have been taught because I've needed to learn. And then I have reawoken what you can do with the body, especially the female body, and how you can ground back into your body and into your life by focusing on certain energy centers. And that is why I do my work. Now, moving on. We're still going down the path. I'm telling a great story about how I met my husband. So, we get to the point where I now realise that I probably should go back to Gelton because I had lost my way. I was starting to drink too much. I was partying too much. And I was still trying to live a double life as a spiritual healer and also a hairdresser, and I did not like the culture that the hairdressing culture is. Sorry to all my hairdresser friends out there, but I really don't like the culture of it. We basically moved back to Gelton. I helped one of my friends out in hairdressing, actually. I went back to hairdressing for a while. then I did celibacy. I did celibacy for a year. That basically showed me that you can harness your energy and propel yourself forward like I've never, ever, ever, ever seen before. And I also knew that I needed to get on top of myself because I was still giving my body away to guys. I basically was still wanting to have sex with men to feel wanted. And that is a big thing to say, because basically I'm saying that I was letting myself be a slab of meat because I felt like I needed love. So I kept doing the work. I worked with quite a few powerful women as well. And I really started to see the difference in myself. I started to gain more power in my body. I started to realize that possibly this assault that had happened when I was younger, that it had basically tainted my energy and me, and that I've got really healthy men around me in my life. Healthy cousins, healthy dad, healthy brothers. So I was thinking, why the fuck am I picking guys who are so fucked up? Basically, when I mean that, I mean they were fuckboys, or they were players, or those types of things. Why was I going down this road, and why was I doing this? Now, I started to see my pattern as I was kind of doing celibacy, and I saw that my emotional pattern was to cling on to anyone that I felt, because I still had this feeling that I was supposed to be in this big love, but I didn't understand how it was going to work, and I literally thought I was going to be on my own for the rest of my life, so it freaked me out. So I started to search, didn't I? I'd get on Instagram and I'd be like, who out of my conscious friends has a spiritual guy that I could basically be with? Come on, like, I was searching and I was hunting, so I was like in my masculine, I was in my masculine energy, hunting like a man, and I was like, Anyways, that didn't get me real far, that, to be honest, because I propelled myself in more of a masculine way than a feminine. It does put guys off, and if you're thinking that I'm full of shit, I am not, because I know this for a fact. My mentor even actually said to me, he said, a man is supposed to hunt for the woman, and when he finds his woman, he works really hard to get her, because he knows internally in his body that she is the person for him. So I've had many guys that I've actually been seeing and dating, and then a couple months later they've gotten with other partners and other women, and I actually take that as a compliment, because in those ways they've actually asked me a lot about my work, and I actually helped them through a lot of stuff through chatting with them and being open and conscious about what I do and why it's important to communicate and those types of things. And any guy that I was dating, I made it a promise to myself that I would be very honest and very open with them about what I was wanting. And every guy, most of them could not handle me or where I was going or what I was doing, but they thought they could. But I, in me, had a knowing that they were not right. And I know they would have thought that too, but they had no sense of being consciously switched on. So take that, ladies, as a sign that men, when they know that you are their person, they will work their ass off to get you, especially a soulmate, because they have this feeling in their body. And I will tell you why, and I'll tell you the story about me and my husband soon. So then I moved to Margaret River. And before I moved to Margaret River, I decided, I was in such a good place, by the way. I was very solid, I was grounded, and anyways, my mentor and everyone was like, why are you moving to Margs? And then it kind of made it clear that I needed to go down there and find my own wings and be away from my family for a bit and grow and learn about myself a little bit more. And I did. I love Margs. Margs is one of my favourite places. My husband and I actually have a house in Margs. It's actually both one of our favourite places. He lived there for a little bit too, which I will explain a little bit more as we go. And I allowed myself to start dating somebody who was definitely 100% my twin flame. And what I mean by that, and I'm not a big believer in twin flames. They do exist. They are here for a reason. Not everyone is supposed to be here together, is my belief. He had the most beautiful soul, but his physical form was not matching up, and I could feel his soul more than I could feel his physical form, so that was a problem. That is also a problem that I've had my whole life. I've always attached to men's souls and not their physical form. Because of the work that I can do, I can feel people's souls so deeply that it really does affect me. So I was in this relationship for 3 months and it was like the biggest turmoil of my fucking life. Let's just leave it at that. But I realised that I basically was like, I'm not going to get what I'm going to get out of this relationship. And my mentor had a conversation with me and he was like, do you understand what this means? You can stay with this person and you will live an okay, happy life, or you can sign up for the big deal that you are here for. So I literally, in that moment, was like, I want the big deal. I've worked so fucking hard in my life. And honestly, I'm telling you this story because I have worked so fucking hard in my fucking life to get where I am right now. I worked hard on my DNA to get my baby to the best place that he could be. And I'll explain that a little bit later as well. I worked on my generational line. I healed that long time ago. And I'm telling you, as a woman, it is the most powerful thing that you can do. So I basically chose my now husband because I could feel his energy. And I was like, I want this energy, whatever it is. Now I was in Margs. I went over to this person's house and I was like, I'm sorry, but it's over. I really appreciate you. I just think we're going different ways in our life and that we just need to separate. Clean, easy, peaceful. Let's go about our own life. I'm not going to get into anything else because I don't need to. So we split up. Anyways, I was doing the work with my best friend, Luca. He said to me, I'm doing my hippotherapy. Please, can I practice with you? And I said, sure. Now, this all was meant to be because Luca basically helped me speak to my family more about my assault and also helped me heal it even more. Now, I can't remember a lot of it, so I'm one of the very, very lucky ones. It's like my body blocked out a lot of it, but it kind of healed. I know my body's healed from it and moved on because I feel very comfortable and very open about sharing it and talking about it as well. So, sorry, give me 1 second. I have to go get my daughter and I will be back.
So what's funny is in your podcast time, it's like 2 seconds or a second for me to connect back in. But for me, I literally just went off for a couple of hours and then had to come back again. My afternoon did not go the way that I was planning it, but that is A-okay. So basically, we're going on from me working deeply in Margaret River on myself with my best mate. And I think we had like a month of calls and I just really went deep in myself and I could just feel myself healing. And what was really interesting is I never actually get readings, guys. I never ever get readings. I actually don't work with anyone but my mentor. Like I don't work with any other spiritual people. I don't seek anybody else for help. I just work with him because what we do is so powerful. I've worked with other people before and it's actually blocked what I've been doing with him because he works with literally God-like energy. So it's pure light, white light, hence my name of raw light on here. It's basically like a white portal constantly whenever we're working together. So that actually gets blocked when I work with other people. Now, in saying that though, I do go to the chiropractor and different physical things to help me, but not spiritual. So basically, I worked really deeply with my best mate for a while on this. And then like I said, I never ever get any readings, but for some reason I felt like I needed a reading because I still didn't trust my senses and myself because I'd been through so much. I was kind of like, as in like I'd been made really bad choices with relationships in my life. Now I'm happy to own up to some of them. I will acknowledge as me 100% knowing what I'm getting myself into and still allowing myself to get into it, even if it's painful or not. So I seeked a reading and she basically said to me, there's no reason why I shouldn't be with this person. This was literally like 3 weeks before I met Josh. There's no reason why you shouldn't be with this person, but you have to figure out what's actually blocking you. And the blockage literally came a couple of weeks later before I moved back to Perth. It was literally like, so I was moving back to Mullawar to help out at a art coffee studio. I'd been offered some money, so I was like, yep, great. And I was stopping in Perth before I was coming back for like a month or two. And so basically, I just felt like I had to go to Perth. And like all of a sudden one night I was like, I've got to go to Perth before I go to Mullawa. Like I literally followed my instincts, and everybody who I told was like, you were crazy. Why are you leaving? It makes no sense for you to be leaving. Like it just doesn't make sense. But to me, my physical body was like, I have to get to Perth. So I basically, sorry, my brain's a little bit foggy. I was in such a groove before, and now I've just got to kind of get back into my groove again. So just give me a moment to keep it flowing. But so everyone thought I was crazy, except for the people that really know me, really understood that I needed to come back to Perth. So I came back to Perth, and I was on dating apps. And now I literally, before this, when I was in Margaret River, let me be very clear, I literally was focusing on my work. I was like, my work, my business, myself. I love who I am, and I'm going to pick myself every day. I had just, all of a sudden, it was like I had shifted all of this old DNA patterns and like these patterns from these lifetime of me basically going backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. You know, like backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards constantly from when I was a really young age of not loving myself. And all of a sudden, after all this hard work, like 10 years later, 5 to 10 years later, it took me to basically really love myself and go, I'm picking myself, you know, first. I am not budging from anything. If anyone wants to be with me, they really have to work hard at it. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to have a bit of fun. I'm going to go on dating apps and just, you know, I'm just going to enjoy myself, because I was literally having a blast, but just doing my work. And, you know, let's be honest, guys, I've never ever liked going on dating apps. I thought before this they were bullshit. And I'm sure a lot of people haven't had good. But you know what I did before I went on the dating app? I literally said, I don't want anybody to come to me unless this is going to work out. I really can't go through this. If it's just for fun and getting to know myself, great. If it's not, then I'm not going to go down this track. Basically, I really did myself a good favor, because I was on the dating app, and my roommate at the time and I were both on Hinge, and I said to her, this guy looks funny. He's got like a really, like I was swiping through and I was like, oh, he's got like a funny little thing, like a little comment. I think it was like, I'll introduce you to my mum if you're not a crazy person. I can't remember what it was. It was like it was meant as a joke though. And I was like, oh yeah. She was like, oh, he went to my school. He was a year below me, or a year above, a little bit. I can't remember. Anyways, and I was like, oh yeah, and just kept swiping. I swiped past him. I was like, yeah, nah. Anyways, I started talking to this other guy, and he was like, oh yeah, let's meet up on Saturday and hang out and, you know, blah, blah. And I was like, great, awesome. And then I happened to come past this other guy again, and I swiped him because I was like, oh yeah, why not? I think I'd done like the whole like postcode, which is embarrassing because I was bored one night. So you know how you just like flick through. Anyways, it had been over, in all honesty, it'd been over like 3 or 4 days. And he came back around again. Anyway, I swiped, and then it was in the morning, and he got the swipe, and within like not even 5 minutes, Josh had messaged me back and was like, hey, I would love to take you on a date. His story, which is really interesting, is he was basically fueling up his car, and he saw that we'd matched, and as soon as he saw me, he kind of did a stalk, and he knew that I was his person. So whether you believe in that or not, he basically knew that he needed to date me and be with me. His internal instincts took over, and he knew. Now, let me rewind to let me have a look for 1 second. Right, so I was basically rewinding back to the start. It'd be about 7 years ago now. I went to my friend's house in Scarborough, and she was a masseuse, and my brother used to go when he played football at East Fremantle. She used to be the masseuse there, so she lived around the corner from us, so all of us would go get massages from her. I happened to go to Demi's house, and out the front I saw Baker build Baker build on a trailer and just kind of was like, oh yeah, no worries. Mind you, I was with my ex-partner at the time. We lived around the corner and I was like, oh yeah, no worries. We walked into the house. Tammy goes, oh, this is one of my roommates, Ash, one of the girls. And then she goes, and this is Josh. And I said, oh yeah, hi, how you going? At the time, I was like, wow, he's actually very attractive. But I was with someone else and I was like, okay, no worries, nice to meet you, and just left it at that. 7 years later, I ended up messaging Demi and I said, Demi, I'm going on a date with Josh. Tell me what you know about him. And basically Demi said, I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but you guys would match absolutely perfectly. And that is the story, basically. And I have had a lot of turns and twists to meet Josh. I didn't tell you this, but I've also had a bit of an interim thing with somebody when I lived in Perth and I wasn't in the best headspace. And they basically played me really well to the point where they didn't actually say they wanted to be with me, but their actions were completely open to it every time they would see me. So for a woman, that is very confusing, and also for a young person who thinks that they're looking for and are in their ego, you know when you're in your ego, guys. You 100% know when you're in your ego when it comes to men. You basically want attention from them constantly. You go out of your way to get their attention, whether it's on social media, texting, or most women do this. And something that I've never done with my husband was feel insecure in any sort of way when it came to our relationship. He literally made me always feel, and has to this day, safe and secure. He feels like home to me, solid home. Now, have we always saw eye to eye? 100% not. We disagree quite a bit, on and off. That is just relationships in general. And also, we've had a baby very fast and got married very, very quick, because I do believe when you meet your soulmate and you hear about people meeting their soulmates, they've been together with somebody for like 8 years and nothing happens, and then they leave that relationship. A year or two later, they meet their soulmate, they get married really quickly, and everyone's like, how come you got married so quickly, blah, blah, blah. Everyone judges everybody for doing that. But that's to me the other way around doesn't make sense. This makes sense to me. All of my siblings have met their soulmates, had babies, and got married quickly. It doesn't mean that is the way to do it, but for us this lifetime, it was for us. When you meet your soulmate, things speed up so fast. It's like you're catching up for time, that you're ready. When you meet them, you're really ready. But you need to remember that with that comes the challenges. For the first 6 years, your energy is integrating together, okay? For the first 6 years as soulmates, because the energy is so strong and so powerful, your energy is integrating for the first 6 years. And my brother and I had a conversation about this recently, that it's integrating so strongly so that eventually you can basically become one in the energy, and you can start to really create what you're needing in life. Now, for those of you who are possibly wondering, my husband loves my spiritual side. It's actually why he was drawn to me, because he was feeling like something was missing in his life. That is from his words when we've had conversations. Now, guys, challenges in a soulmate relationship are pretty big. As in, because two of you have come from two different backgrounds, and especially normally one soulmate is more open than the other, so that the other one can reignite and reopen. So basically one chooses to come back in this life and chooses to have a more of a mission, and the other one is here to help reawaken the other one and them step on a mission together. That is what soulmates are for. society basically tries to keep everybody apart from soulmates so that they keep living the normal society life. But soulmates are basically here to build like an energy force in a certain area and help shift and move that energy force. So imagine if there was like millions of people with their soulmate and no one clowned around and was like, should I, shouldn't I? Here's the thing. Love is an action that you choose every single day. You have to choose love when it comes to your relationship. You have to choose hard work when it comes to your relationship. When I mean hard work, I mean growth. I don't mean you're screaming and yelling at each other 24/7 and it's really hard work and you've got no energy and you're constantly battling with each other. That is not the relationship I'm talking about. I'm talking about a very harmonious relationship, but when things need to be spoken about, you go into it and you're in it for a day or a week or whatever it is, and then you come out of the end of it once you guys have finished the energy. And the aim of that is so that you grow within your relationship and so you don't become stuck. So over the years, I've learnt a lot about myself, about my habits, about my relationships. And the reason why I'm sharing this today is because I feel like over the years I've shown a big front of like a happy life and everyone's like, oh, you look so happy in Perth or you look so happy in Margs, but they don't see behind the scenes of I dated quite a few guys when I was in Perth. I dated a fuckboy while I was in Perth. It actually destroyed a lot of my relationships in the end because I chose to walk away from really close friends of mine because I basically didn't want to have to see this person anymore. And yes, it was my fault because I allowed myself to go down this road and play out this fantasy that I had in my head. I am taking 100% responsibility. He will never take responsibility for the fact that he knew that we had a connection and he led me on for a very, very long time. But the problem is with that, I let myself get caught up in the energy side of things. I could feel and sense old past lifetimes, and they weren't healthy either. So I've had a lot of journey with relationships, mainly because I can feel, like I said, partners' souls, and I can feel what we've had in another life. But the truth is, we haven't had this life. So their physical form is not matching what is up there. So a lot of people get really caught up in what guys could be, and this is a massive thing for women. What guys could be. He could do this and he will change for me. No, he won't, most likely. I've also been in that 5-year relationship and I asked him to meet me halfway and to do a bit of work on ourselves as a couple together, and he said yes but never did anything, and constantly said yes to things and never did anything, was very slow about moving about things, and that's okay. I know I move at a really quick, really fast pace because that's who I am in life. I'm a manifestor generator. It's my human design, so I'm basically, when I make a decision, I'm done. That's it. This is the right decision for me and that's it. And I find it hard, I will not change from that. Anything that lights me up, I follow, and that's what manifestor generators are supposed to do. So he was the total opposite to me, and basically there was no growth within that relationship, and he kept telling me that we were going to get a house and get married and do all these things, but he never really wanted to get married ever, and I don't think he ever wanted to have kids, but he never told me that. So, splitting up was the best thing that we did at the time. I'm not telling or encouraging people to split up. I'm just telling you my story and telling you that most of the time when people say they're going to change, they really don't. You really have to put effort and work into relationships, guys. Josh and I have done a lot of growth work in our relationship. A lot. And it is because I am the person that is been doing this for a really long time, so I basically am the leader in this area. So when something comes up, it blows up a little bit because you have to learn how to approach somebody in a very kind and loving way, and think about approaching them from a inner child way. I know when my inner child blows up, and I know when theirs is too. So you've got to get smart about how you're thinking about speaking to a person or a partner or somebody, because inner child basically runs the emotions if you're not careful and if you haven't been seen since when you were little. So you've got to be very, very careful and cautious about how you go about that in general. When you're dealing with people, you have to look at like you're dealing with a child. With some people, if you are having a disagreement with your partner or a family member or a friend and you're like, they just emotionally aren't evolved, think about how you can teach them from a childlike view instead of thinking, oh, well, actually, they're just a pain in the ass and, they don't listen to me and they're not emotionally evolved. In this last 4 years, I've really, really, really learnt about my ego, and I've really, really, really learnt about how it's important to help someone evolve. They're willing to and they want to. They have no clue. You're the leader. It's tiring and frustrating, but at the same time, it's so, so rewarding. Also, I am very respectful about my relationship. So me sharing this stuff is super, super, super special. It's important to remember that everyone has their own thoughts and feelings. So basically my story and what I just told, I've had a lot happen in my life within relationships, and I've had some really, really unhealthy ones. One I also skipped past that I didn't tell you guys about was a guy who owned a house in Trig Beach, and he basically preys on young women. But at the time I didn't see it like that. He'd taken interest in me. I just split up with my ex. I was really just like, I don't know why I intervened in this relationship, but had quite a bit of money. This is unusual for me because I thought I could save him, and my emotions at the time were so ungrounded, and I just started to open up my spirituality even more. So this was my early 20s. So it was like I was 23 or something like that, and he was like 30 something. I basically made his light switches in his house nearly pop because of the strength of my energy and my emotions attached to it. I literally had started to go through these glitches where I was ungrounded with my energy, that I was causing like a glitch in places and spaces. So making sure that if you are going through something like that as well, to wrap up this episode, sorry, I rambled for like the last couple of minutes, but if you were going through relationships and you are experiencing glitches, I haven't had that in years because I've grounded myself very, very well now. Know that it is normal, but it's not, and you do need to find somebody that can help guide you through it. So I'm going to leave it there today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I just want to say that I want to bring awareness around sexual assault, emotional abuse, and that it's not okay in life. Like if this is happening to you, please seek help. Let me just finish on that. Please seek help from somebody. Please let somebody know that this is happening. The reason why I've also brought it up and brought it into my podcast is because I feel like it's a part of me I've hidden for a very long time, and also a lot of girls come to me and tell me certain things, and I work with a lot of women, mainly they've come to me and they've had some sort of assault. And this week I had 4 podcasts that I listened to basically tell me that it was time to talk about it, because I'd been thinking about it for last week. And I listened to Call Her Daddy, and I also listened to Call Her Daddy, and then also my whole lot of social media. I had not been speaking out loud. My whole lot of my social media basically was reading my mind and was talking about how it's important for women to speak up, and I want to be a leader in this industry. I don't want to hide things. So it's also to remember that if you know me personally, that I'm okay. I'm all good. There's no need to rush off and try and chat with my family. They are processing their own things as well. Please be as respectful as you possibly can. And also for those women who are hearing this and saying, oh my God, this has or something has happened to me that I am not comfortable with, please call. There is a helpline that you can actually Google. I think it's 1-800-RESPECT. I had a look yesterday to make sure that there was something that people could go to and or talk to somebody that you feel safe to, and then get the help that you need as well. Remember, this is my journey, and from what I've spoken to, and my journey this lifetime was to heal it spiritually for me. It might not be for you, so just make sure that you pick what is best for you. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very, very much for listening to this podcast this week. It is a very raw and real episode, raw light as I'd call it. So thank you very much for taking the time to be here, and I really look forward to speaking to you guys next week.